The fluorescent lights of Riverside High School's cafeteria hummed overhead as students shuffled through the lunch line. At table 7, near the windows, 16-year-old Lila Reyes carefully unpacked her lunch container. The aroma of garlic, vinegar, and soy sauce wafted up as she opened the lid. "What is that smell?" Lila looked up to find Madison Pierce, captain of the cheer squad, standing with her tray, nose wrinkled in exaggerated disgust. Her friends Jessica and Amber flanked her like bodyguards, their matching designer lunch bags contrasting sharply with Lila's simple Tupperware. Adobo, Lila answered quietly, already feeling the familiar heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. "Chicken." "Adobo, it smells like, I don't know, feet." Madison announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear several students turn to look. "Why can't you just bring normal food like everyone else?" Lila's best friend, Sarah Chen, slid into the seat beside her defensively. "It's Filipino food, Madison. Maybe try expanding your palate beyond chicken nuggets." Madison laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Filipino food? Is that even a real cuisine? I've never seen it on any cooking show." She leaned closer, examining Lila's lunch. "What's that purple stuff?" "It looks like Play-Doh." Lila said, her voice barely audible. "It's a dessert, my Lola. My grandmother made your what?" Jessica chimed in. Her grandmother, Sarah, translated her jaw tight. Amber pulled out her phone. "I'm Googling this Filipino food." She scrolled for a moment, then held up her screen. "Look, even the internet says it's acquired taste, and not for everyone. That's code for weird." "Can you guys just go?" Sarah said, her patience snapping. "We're trying to eat." Madison's smile was syrupy, sweet. "We're just trying to understand Lila's interesting choices. My mom always says you are what you eat, and if you're eating that..." She trailed off meaningfully, her eyes sweeping over Lila's thrift store cardigan and worn sneakers as Madison's group walked away, their laughter trailing behind them. Lila closed her container, her appetite gone. "Don't listen to them," Sarah said firmly. "They're ignorant." But Lila had been listening to versions of this her entire life. The wrinkled noses in elementary school. The "what's that weird smell" in middle school. The endless questions. "Why can't your mom just pack you a sandwich?" She'd tried that once, brought peanut butter and jelly for a week straight. But her Lola had looked so hurt that Lila couldn't bear to continue. "I'm used to it," Lila said, though her hands trembled slightly as she repacked her untouched lunch. What neither Madison nor Lila knew was that in exactly 3 weeks, everything would change. Principal Hernandez stood at the front of the auditorium, his voice booming through the microphone. "As many of you know, Riverside High has been selected to participate in the State Culinary Showcase this year." A murmur of interest rippled through the assembled students. Each school will send one student representative to compete. The winner receives a $10,000 scholarship, and their dish will be featured at the governor's annual dinner. He paused for effect. "We'll be holding tryouts next week. Students interested in representing Riverside should sign up with Miss Chen in the main office." Lila felt Sarah's elbow in her ribs. "You should do it." "Are you crazy?" Lila whispered. "Did you not witness what happened at lunch today? Exactly why you should do it?" Sarah insisted. "Show them what Filipino food really is." "I can't cook like my Lola. I'd embarrass myself." "Your Lola could teach you. Come on, Lila." "When are you going to stop hiding?" That evening, Lila sat at her Lola's kitchen table, watching the elderly woman's hands move with practiced precision. Chopping, stirring, tasting. The kitchen smelled like home. Ginger, garlic, calamansi, and something indefinably comforting. "Lola," Lila began hesitantly, "there's this cooking competition at school." Her grandmother looked up, eyes bright. "And you want to enter?" "I don't know. Maybe. But I don't know if I'm good enough." Lola set down her knife and took Lila's hands in her own, weathered and strong. "Apo, you know why I came to America? Not for the big house or fancy car. I came so my children and their children could be proud of where they come from." She gestured to the pots, simmering on the stove. "Our food, it tells our story. Spanish, Chinese, Malay, American, all mixed together. Like us, nothing weird about it. Only beautiful." But the kids at school, they don't know. Lola interrupted gently because nobody taught them. Maybe you teach them over the next 2 weeks. Lila spent every afternoon in her Lola's kitchen. She learned the patience required for proper adobo, the balance of vinegar and soy sauce, the importance of marinating time. She practiced rolling lumpia until her fingers cramped, achieving the perfect crispness. Her Lola demanded she mastered the art of halo layering textures and flavors with precision, not just cooking. Lola would say, cooking with love. That's the secret ingredient they don't put in recipe books. The day of the school tryouts arrived, the home economics classroom had been transformed into a makeshift kitchen competition space, complete with a panel of 3 judges. Miss Rodriguez, the Spanish teacher who occasionally cooked Mr. Thompson, who once appeared on a local cooking segment, and Principal Hernandez himself. 8 students had signed up. Madison Pierce was among them. Of course she is, Sarah muttered as they set up Lila's station. Can't let anyone else have the spotlight Madison had brought. What she announced were gourmet sliders with truffle, aioli, essentially hamburgers with expensive ingredients. Other contestants prepared pasta dishes, a Caesar salad with deconstructed elements, and one ambitious attempt at beef Wellington. When Lila unpacked her ingredients, she felt the familiar stares, the banana leaves, the purple aube, the small container of bagoong, the bottle of cane vinegar. "What is she making?" she heard someone whisper. "Probably something weird again," came the response. Madison's voice carried across the room. "I hope the judges have adventurous stomachs today. Some of us are making real food, but others—" She gestured vaguely in Lila's direction, earning giggles from her friends in the audience. Lila's hands shook as she lit her portable burner. Sarah squeezed her shoulder. "Remember what your Lola said? Cook with love." The tryout began for 40 minutes, the room filled with competing aromas and the controlled chaos of amateur cooking. Madison's sliders, sizzled pasta water boiled over someone burned their garlic. Lila worked methodically. Just as Lola had taught her, she pan-fried her lumpia until they achieved that perfect golden brown crisp. She plated her chicken adobo with care, the sauce glistening, garnished with fresh scallions. Her ube jala was molded into small, vibrant purple rounds, topped with toasted coconut thyme. Principal Hernandez called. The judges began their rounds. They nodded appreciatively at Madison's sliders, made polite comments about the pasta dishes, looked confused by the deconstructed Caesar salad. When they reached Lila's station, Ms. Rodriguez's eyebrows rose. "Lumpia, adobo, and what is this purple dessert?" "Ube jalaya, ma'am. It's a Filipino purple yam dessert." Lila's voice was steadier than she felt. Mr. Thompson picked up a lumpia, examining it with the critical eye of someone trying to look knowledgeable. "Interesting, and this fermented paste bagoong. It's traditional to serve with certain dishes." "It's optional." "Of course, well," Mr. Thompson said, in a tone that suggested he was doing her a favor. "Let's give it a try." He bit into the lumpia. His chewing slowed, his eyes widened slightly. Miss Rodriguez followed suit, taking a small portion of the adobo. She chewed thoughtfully, then took another bite, then another. Principal Hernandez, who had been looking skeptical, tried the ube halaya. The purple color had clearly made him hesitant, but his expression transformed after the first taste. This is Miss Rodriguez started reaching for another lumpia. The texture is perfect, crispy but not greasy, and the filling pork and vegetables. The seasoning is remarkable. Mr. Thompson was now focused on the adobo. The balance of flavors here is sophisticated. The vinegar cuts through the richness, and there's this subtle sweetness. Is there 5 spice in this? Miss Rodriguez asked, her Spanish teacher demeanor giving way to genuine enthusiasm. "Yes, ma'am, and bay leaves, my Lola. My grandmother taught me it's her recipe." Principal Hernandez had taken a second helping of the ube. "I've never tasted anything like this. The color threw me off, I'll admit. But the flavor is subtle, not overly sweet." "What did you say?" "This was called ube halaya, made from purple yam, coconut milk, and condensed milk." The judges continued sampling their appreciation. Evident, meanwhile, Madison stood at her station watching with growing disbelief as the judges spent more time at Lila's station than anyone else's, including her own when the judges finally stepped back to confer. Mr. Thompson was still holding Lila's plate. "I believe we need to finish evaluating all the stations," Miss Rodriguez reminded him gently. "Right, yes, of course." But Lila noticed he took another small bite of lumpia before setting the plate down. The deliberation lasted 15 minutes. Students whispered among themselves, casting glances between Madison's station and Lila's. Finally, Principal Hernandez stepped forward. This was an exceptionally difficult decision. All of our contestants showed creativity and effort. He paused, building suspense. However, one student demonstrated not only technical skill, but also the courage to share something deeply personal and culturally significant. Lila's heart hammered. Riverside High's representative to the State Culinary Showcase will be Lila Reyes for a moment. The room was silent then. Sarah let out a whoop that broke the spell, and scattered applause followed Lila, stood frozen, unable to believe what she'd heard. Madison's face had gone from pink to red to white. "This is ridiculous," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "She made weird ethnic food. This is a professional competition. The governor is going to be there. We need to send someone who'll make normal food that people actually want to eat." Miss Rodriguez's expression hardened. Madison, what Layla prepared, demonstrated advanced technique, complex flavor profiles, and cultural authenticity that is professional cooking. "But it's so different," Madison protested, gesturing helplessly at Layla's station. "Nobody knows what Filipino food is. She's going to embarrass our school." Then perhaps Principal Hernandez said coolly, "Our school could use a little education?" As the room cleared, students approached Lila's station with newfound curiosity. "Can I try that purple thing? Is there any more of those spring roll things?" Even some of Madison's friends sheepishly asked for samples. Sarah hugged Lila tight. I told you, but Lila barely heard her." She was watching the judges, who had returned to her station and were having an animated discussion while finishing off what remained of her dishes. Mr. Thompson was using his finger to get the last bit of ube jalea from the serving bowl. That evening, Lola cried when Lila told her the news. "You see, the food speaks for itself. You just have to let it speak." The 3 weeks leading up to the State Culinary Showcase were a whirlwind. Lila refined her recipes, testing variations, seeking feedback. Word spread through Riverside High about her win, and suddenly, students who'd never spoken to her before wanted to know about Filipino food. "Is it true you eat purple ice cream? What's in lumpia? Can you really put spaghetti and hot dogs together?" The questions were sometimes ignorant, but they were curious rather than mocking. Madison, however, remained hostile. She'd taken to eating lunch at a different table, shooting glares at Lila across the cafeteria. Her friends had quietly defected, increasingly interested in Lila's daily lunch offerings. "Try the pancit," Sarah would say, passing containers around their now crowded table. "It's like the best stir-fried noodles you've ever had the day of the state." Culinary Showcase arrived. The venue was the grand ballroom of the Riverside Convention Center, transformed into a professional kitchen competition space, 20 students from 20 different high schools, each representing their region. The judges' panel was intimidating. A James Beard award-winning chef, a food critic from the state's largest newspaper, and a culinary school dean. The governor himself would taste the top 3 dishes. Lila set up her station with trembling hands. Around her, other students unpacked impressive equipment and exotic ingredients. She saw truffle oil, edible gold leaf, and cuts of meat she couldn't even name. "Welcome, competitors," the head judge announced. "Today, you'll have 2 hours to prepare a 3-course meal that represents your cultural heritage and culinary vision. The theme is the taste of home." Lila closed her eyes briefly. The taste of home, her Lola's kitchen, the smell of garlic hitting hot oil, the sound of oil crackling as lumpia fried, the sight of her family gathered around the table, passing dishes, laughing, arguing, loving. She opened her eyes. She knew exactly what to cook for the first course: lumpia Shanghai and fresh lumpia. The unfried version wrapped in lettuce leaves with a peanut sauce. The contrast of textures, the interplay of temperatures for the main chicken adobo, but elevated. She'd marinate it overnight in her Lola's special blend, then finish it in the oven to get the skin crispy while keeping the meat tender. served over garlic rice with a side of ashara pickled papaya for brightness for dessert. Uba halaya, but presented in individual portions, topped with leche flan and a shard of coconut brittle for crunch. She worked with a focus she'd never experienced before. Around her, the competition raged. Timers beeped, pans clattered. Someone shouted about a broken blender. But Lila was in her Lola's kitchen, moving with practiced confidence, tasting, adjusting, perfecting. 30 minutes remaining, the announcer called. Lila began plating. She'd practiced this dozens of times, but her hands still shook slightly as she arranged the lumpia, drizzled the peanut sauce, placed the garnish of cilantro, and crushed peanuts. Time step away from your stations. The judges began their rounds. Lila watched them taste sophisticated French techniques, modern molecular gastronomy, farm-to-table American cuisine. Each dish seemed more impressive than the last when they reached her station. The head judge, Chef Marcus Williams, studied her plates with an unreadable expression. "Tell us about your dishes," he said. Lila took a breath. "These dishes represent my Filipino heritage. The lumpia are a tradition in my family. My Lola makes them every Sunday. The adobo is considered the national dish of the Philippines. It shows our history, Spanish influence in the name, Chinese technique in the cooking method, indigenous ingredients. The yuba dessert represents how Filipino cuisine can be both traditional and innovative." The food critic, a woman named Janet Morrison, picked up a piece of fried lumpia. She bit in, chewed, and immediately reached for her pen to make notes. "The wrapper is perfectly crispy. The filling is well seasoned. And this sauce is that peanut butter ground. Peanuts with garlic sugar vinegar and a touch of soy sauce, ma'am." Chef Williams tried the adobo. He took one bite, then closed his eyes as he chewed the depth of flavor. "Here is extraordinary. How long did you marinate this 24 hours, chef?" The culinary dean, Professor Reeves, tasted the uba dessert. "I'll admit the color made me hesitant, but this is remarkable. The flan on top adds richness, and the coconut brittle provides textural contrast. This is thoughtful composition." The judges moved on, but Lila noticed they kept glancing back at her station. Chef Williams said something to Janet Morrison, who nodded emphatically. The wait for the results felt eternal. Finally, the judges returned to the front of the room. "This was one of the most difficult judging experiences we've had," Chef Williams began. "We saw incredible technique, creativity, and passion from all our competitors." He paused. "However, 3 students will advance to present their dishes to Governor Harris." He called the first name, a student who'd prepared an elaborate French-inspired menu. Then the second, a girl who'd made a modern take on Southern soul food. "And our third finalist?" Chef Williams smiled. "Lila Reyes, representing Riverside High School." Sarah, who'd been sitting in the audience, screamed so loud, several people jumped. The 3 finalists were escorted to a separate area where Governor Harris waited with his small entourage. He was younger than Lila had expected, with an easy smile and genuine interest in his eyes. "I've heard wonderful things about all 3 of your dishes," he said. "I'm looking forward to tasting them." Lila's competitors went first. The governor made appreciative comments, asked thoughtful questions, and seemed genuinely impressed. Then it was Lila's turn. She watched nervously as the governor tried the lumpia first. "Oh, wow," he said, his official demeanor cracking. "That's delicious. What's in the filling?" "Pork, carrots, onions, and some secret seasonings my Lola won't tell me all of," Lila admitted, earning a laugh. He moved to the adobo. The first bite seemed to surprise him. He took another larger bite. "This is incredible. The chicken is so tender and the sauce, it's sweet, salty, tangy all at once. How did you achieve this?" Lila explained the marinating process, the slow braising, the finishing technique. The governor listened intently, asking follow-up questions like someone who genuinely loved food. Finally, the UB dessert. He looked at it skeptically. "I'll be honest, the color is throwing me off. That's Kefir, it's made from purple yam. It's completely natural." He took a small, tentative bite. Then his eyebrows shot up. "But this is not what I expected. It's not overly sweet. And the flan adds this creamy richness. And is that coconut in the brittle?" "Yes, sir. Toasted coconut," He took another bite. Then another. Can I ask you something, Lila? Why did you choose to make Filipino food for this competition? Lila thought of her. Lola have the years of hiding her lunch, have Madison's mocking voice. Because, sir, I was tired of being ashamed of who I am, my food, my culture. It's not weird. It's not strange, it's just different from what some people are used to, and I wanted to show that different can be beautiful and delicious. Governor Harris smiled. Well, you certainly succeeded. He turned to his aide. Make sure I get the recipes for all of this. The announcement came shortly after. Lila Reyes had won the State Culinary Showcase. Her scholarship was secured, and her dishes would be served at the governor's annual dinner the following month. The Monday after her win, Lila walked into the cafeteria with her usual Tupperware container. But this time, instead of hiding in the corner, she sat at her regular table and opened her lunch without hesitation. The aroma of adobo filled the air. Madison appeared as if summoned by the smell. But this time her expression wasn't mocking. It was something else, uncertain. Almost envious. Congratulations, Madison said stiffly. On the scholarship, thank you. Madison hesitated, then blurted out, Is there any chance, do you think your grandmother would ever teach a cooking class or something? Because that food at the competition looked really good. Lila stared at her, speechless. Sarah, never one to miss an opportunity, grinned widely. Oh, now you want to learn about Filipino food? What happened to it being weird and not a real cuisine? Madison's face flushed. I was wrong, okay? I was ignorant and mean, and I'm sorry. She looked directly at Lila. I judged something I'd never even tried. That was stupid. It wasn't much of an apology, but Lila could see it was genuine. My Lola would probably love to teach people. She's been wanting to share her recipes with the community. Really? Madison's face brightened. Really, on one condition. What? You have to promise to actually try everything with an open mind. No complaining about how it looks or smells before you taste it. Madison nodded eagerly. I promise. I really do want to learn. That purple dessert thing, the Uber. I can't stop thinking about it. As Madison walked away, Sarah leaned over to Lila. I love to see it. Lila laughed, taking a bite of her adobo, savoring it fully for the first time in public. Around her, students were unpacking their lunches, sandwiches, salads, leftover pizza, normal food for them. But Lila's food was normal too. It was just a different kind of normal. 2 tables over, she noticed a freshman Filipino student carefully unpacking a container of pancit. The girl glanced around nervously, clearly expecting mockery. Lila caught her eye and smiled, raising her own container in solidarity. The girl's face transformed, relief and pride mixing together. That evening, Lila sat with her Lola in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for the next day's lunch. Lola, Madison Pierce, the girl who was mean to me, she wants to learn how to cook Filipino food. Lola's eyes crinkled with amusement. The one who said your food smells like feet? That's the one. Good. We teach her. She learns that food is not just about eating. It's about history, culture, love. She learns to respect what she doesn't understand. Lola paused in her chopping. Apo, you did something important. You showed them that our food, our culture is worthy of respect. Not because you hid who you are, but because you showed them proudly. It was scary, Lila admitted. Of course it was scary. Brave things always are. But you know what you did? You opened a door. Now other Filipino kids, other kids with weird food, they see that door is open. They don't have to hide anymore. Lila thought of the freshman with her pancit, of the growing crowd at her lunch table of the cooking class. Her Lola was planning of the governor's annual dinner where hundreds would taste Filipino cuisine. Perhaps for the first time one door opened, one mind changed, one perfect bite at a time. Now, Lola said, pushing a cutting board toward her. Cut those onions smaller. If we're going to teach Madison, she needs to see proper technique. We can't have her making sloppy lumpia and telling people my granddaughter taught her. Lila laughed, picking up her knife. Outside the kitchen window, the sun was setting, casting golden light across the familiar space where so many meals had been prepared. So many stories told, so many traditions passed down. Different wasn't weird. Different was just waiting to be understood. If this story resonated with you, remember that dismissing unfamiliar foods often means dismissing entire cultures and histories. Have you ever judged a dish by its appearance or smell, only to discover it was delicious? Share your food revelation stories in the comments below.